Hello and welcome to another episode of the SITREP. Today we are talking about a topic I've been trying to cover for a long time to get a subject matter expert in the house, which we do today. Alyssa, thank you for being here. But today we're talking about veteran readiness and employment, which a lot of you used to know as vocational rehabilitation and employment, but a lot of people affectionately call VR&E. So Alyssa, let's dive into this topic, shall we?
Thank you, Paul.
So in a nutshell, what is VR&E?
VR&E is a vocational goal-focused program that assists our veterans and transitioning service members with identifying a suitable vocational goal relative to their disability conditions. When this goal is identified, counselors will then work with the veterans to develop a plan of services to assist the veteran with obtaining the required education and or training needed in order to apply to jobs within that field. These plans of services are unique to the veteran's individual needs and their particular circumstances, as VR&E is not a one-size-fits-all approach. One veteran's plan is going to be significantly different from another veteran's plan of services, and that's based upon the needs of that specific veteran and what type of supportive services they need in order to get to their goal.
VR&E is like almost limitless as to what it can do within reason, of course, to assist a veteran with like really getting good career path or reemployed or what have you.
We want to make sure that we are identifying a goal for the veteran, a mutually agreed upon goal with the veteran that's suitable for them, that's going to not exacerbate their disability conditions, and something that they can see themselves pursuing a career in.
What if I'm a terribly unreasonable veteran who's come into your office and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm horrible at math, but I want to become a rocket scientist. Like, is VR&E going to be able to assist me in becoming a rocket scientist, or are you going to sit me down and be like, hey, let's come up with some alternatives?
A counselor would sit down with you and take a look at your targeted vocational goal and also similar goals that would require the same skills and also coursework that you are interested in pursuing to be able to achieve employment within that goal. So having an open mind and also being willing to explore different options with your counselor is really important, as there may be some career fields out there that you may not have heard of, but your counselor might bring to your attention and that you might develop an interest in.
What if the career field I want to go into might potentially be something that could exacerbate an injury or illness, something that I'm service connected for? Am I still going to be able to go into that career path, or should I look at something different?
A counselor would work with you towards identifying a goal that is not likely towards to worsening or exacerbating your service-connected conditions. A counselor would sit down with you and take a look at the typical job duties of a job within said field and see, is this something you could do on a day-to-day basis? Is this something you could see yourself pursuing long-term? If the answer is no, then we would steer the veteran into taking a look at additional career paths. Obviously, paths that you would be interested in, but it's something that we can fully support you with moving forward, and as it's a feasible goal for you.
And what if I used VR&E for a new career path, but the requirements or the description of or tasks, responsibilities, and stuff like that within that job change, and now it's like, okay, this is no longer suitable employment for me, or in order for me to get to a different part of that career field, I need more training or I need more education, whatever. Can I reapply to VR&E or just talk to my old counselor that I had and figure out something to solve that? Or how does that work?
Yes, you can reapply to VR&E. And when you reapply to the Chapter 31 VR&E program, a counselor will then take a look at what job were you formerly employed in or currently employed in, and how is these job duties exacerbating your disability conditions at this time? Is this another opportunity for us to take a look at a different career field for us to support you in, or if your employer or the career field is requiring you to have further training or education in order to maintain that employment, then we would take a look at that information too as well, as long as the goal is still considered to be suitable for you and your specific disability conditions.
So as we know, life happens, especially, somebody could have a disability and their disability flares up, or something happens in their family that changes the dynamic and they need to stop utilizing VR&E. Is it something that can be stopped and restarted, or is it like a one-shot deal?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes veterans have certain circumstances come up in their personal lives where they may need to take a semester or two off of training, or maybe an individual had birth of a child and they needed to move forward with caring for their child for some time. Those do come up, and those instances do come up, and sometimes our veterans are in planned interruptions. And this is discussed further with their counselor to determine a time that a veteran would resume their training and move forward with their overall vocational goal. So yes, there many things do come up throughout a veteran's training, and also, we want to make sure that we're taking into consideration the human element too as well, that sometimes some breaks are needed given certain circumstances, and we most certainly do appreciate that veterans do have certain obstacles that may come up during their training, and we're there to support them.
So can you provide an example of when and how VR&E might be used?
For example, if we had a veteran come to us who was employed as a police officer at this time, their disability conditions, they may have a back condition, and which is exacerbated by the daily demands of their job as a police officer, or their daily duties as a police officer, and they might need to look at a different career field in order to build a career in. With that said, veterans apply to our program and meet with a counselor to determine some career fields that would be suitable for the veteran to obtain employment in. And through review of labor market information and just taking a look at the overall, career fields that the veteran might have presented to us, we determine what type of training is required for veterans to be able to apply to jobs within this field and to make them a competitive applicant for jobs within this field. That is one thing we want to make sure we consider too as well, is what's going to make you competitive amongst all the other applicants applying to these jobs. And
so how is it if I'm a veteran out there or a service member who's about to leave the military and I want to apply for this benefit? How do I do that?
You can apply for this benefit by going online and submitting an online application to the Veteran Readiness and Employment Program. You can also fill out a paper application form. It's called a VA Form 28-1900, and this can be mailed into our VR&E intake center or dropped off at your nearest regional office.
So for an individual who has applied for this benefit, they've sent in the application, what can they expect to happen next?
If veterans are found eligible for the program, they meet the eligibility criteria, they would then be scheduled an appointment to meet with a vocational rehabilitation counselor to discuss entitlement determination. Veterans must be determined entitled to our program in order to proceed with services under our program. With that said, a counselor must meet with a veteran to determine if any of their service-connected disability conditions are contributing to challenges and or barriers towards employment at this current time. And then the counselor will determine if our program is of need to the veteran.
Me, the veteran, it's been determined that I do have entitlement and that this program is a good fit for me. What are the next steps?
The next steps would be to identify a vocational goal that would be suitable for said veteran. So what you would want to take a look at with your counselor is, what are you interested in? What are you good at? What are some skills that you possess from the military and also from former employment that you could apply to a new career goal? Something that you could see yourself obtaining employment in for the remainder of your of your life.
So with certain conditions, like I just did an interview with a subject matter expert with regard to GI Bill. There are certain conditions in which a veteran's dependents are able to utilize GI Bill benefits. Is that the same with VR&E, or is VR&E specific to the veteran?
Yes, there are. For dependents of service members and or veterans, there are different career counseling, there are educational career counseling opportunities for their dependents to further look into.
So from beginning to end, I mean, I know that, and we'll say this very many times, that the way that a veteran utilizes VR&E is going to be very unique to them. I mean, it's not the same track for everyone. No. But in a general sense, I mean, if we're looking at like the tippy top of the bell curve, what most people's experience is like using VR&E from beginning to end, what does that kind of look like?
What ends up happening is a veteran will meet with their counselor towards identifying that targeted goal that they would like to pursue employment in at this time. That goal is going to be identified as a suitable goal within their plan of services, so a career field that's not likely to exacerbate the veteran service-connected disability conditions. Then from there, you work with the counselor and you take a look at the labor market information of said goal to determine if there's additional training, education that is needed in order for you to be able to apply to those goals. So sometimes there might be years or months worth of training that one must accomplish in order to apply to these jobs. And you are then followed through work with a counselor through your training in order to move forward with seeking employment within that field. So for instance, you are meeting with your counselor to determine what type of supportive services you need for the remainder of your training in order to move to the next step of reaching the job readiness.
So I know something that's very important, and that's money. Like the GI Bill, that provides a monthly stipend. Does VR&E provide a monthly stipend, or do they cover, what kind of expenses do they cover?
When veterans are in our program and they are pursuing their training, they are eligible for the monthly stipend to assist with additional living costs to supplement their daily living. So such as veterans can use their monthly stipend to assist with paying for rent, and other additional expenses that they might occur when they are in training.
And what is, from the school aspect of it, or training? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be a university or something that the veteran is attending. How much of the cost and to like what extent does VR&E cover? 100%.
VR&E will cover 100% of the required costs of what a student would need to accomplish in order to complete said degree or complete certificate training program.
And does that include supplies? Like, what if I need a computer or a printer or something like that? Is that covered too?
Generally, yes. So taking a look at books and supplies, we're able to cover all required textbooks that a veteran might need in order to successfully pass their course, and a reasonable quantity of supplies such as pens, pencils, papers, notebooks, graphing calculators if you're in a math course that requires one. And if you are in need of a laptop or other assistive technology in order to complete your degree program, this is an additional supply that Chapter 31 can support veterans with.
And last question about the money. Is it tax-free or is it income? Like, do I need to report it to the IRS, or what's the deal?
No, you do not. This is tax-free. You do not need to report this.
How long does the VR&E benefit last for? I mean, I know it's going to be, we'll say it again and again and again. It's a very unique thing to most veterans. But in a general sense, I mean, how long can this benefit last for?
Veterans have up to 48 months of entitlement under Chapter 31 services. So depending on the needs of the specific veteran and the training that might be that's identified in order for the veteran to achieve their goal, their plan will be based upon those needs.
What about a veteran who is 100% disabled? They're not supposed to work, even though they can under certain conditions, which we have another video about that. But are they able to utilize the VR&E program for their own education and employment?
Yes, veterans who are 100% service connected are eligible to apply to VR&E. And from there, when the veteran meets with a counselor, they will then determine if a veteran is wanting to move forward with employment at this current time and what those specific needs are of that veteran.
If a veteran is entering into a program and they have the option to fill out FAFSA, do they need to, or what's your advice on that?
I would recommend that the veteran follow up with with the school themselves to see if this would be a benefit for them to apply to. FAFSA can offer additional financial assistance such as Pell Grants that veterans could use on their own through the school. That is separate from VR&E itself. So
even if I'm receiving a grant or a scholarship or any of that, it doesn't affect what I get from VR&E?
Correct. VR&E will be completely separate.
For veterans that are out there that are interested in going to a school or getting into a particular trade or program or what have you, how do they find out whether or not the school they want to go to or the program that they want to enter falls in line with or qualifies for VR&E?
So taking a look at the specific vocational goal of a veteran, we must identify, is that training the veteran looking at required for them to be able to move forward with their overall vocational goal? That would be the first thing that we'd want to take a look at, is seeing if said degree is required of all applicants to apply to these jobs and also to be a competitive applicant amongst other applicants within the field. And then from there, what would end up happening is a veteran will take a look at VR&E approved programs. And there is a website under va.gov that goes over all the list of approved training facilities, such as schools, and also individual programs listed under these schools and other training facilities to determine if these can be supported under a veteran's Chapter 31 plan of services.
So if I'm a veteran out there and I don't really want to go to a college or university, I'd rather do a trade, and perhaps I'd like to do on-the-job training or apprenticeship or something like that. Am I able to utilize VR&E for that purpose?
Yes. Yep. You are absolutely able to take a look at on-the-job trainings and apprenticeships with your counselor if this is something you are interested in moving forward with.
So how far exactly into schooling can a veteran go while utilizing VR&E? I mean, could it take me through a master's or a PhD? Exactly how does that work?
Depending on the vocational goal a veteran is aiming to pursue at that time, they will then take a look at the training required in order for a veteran to move forward with applying to jobs within that field. So job postings, labor market information is typically used within the counseling sessions to determine the necessary requirements.
And with those job postings and what have you, do you use the area that the veteran currently resides or the area that the veteran wants to reside in, or do you make a difference in the determination with regard to that kind of information?
Based on the veteran's current circumstances, if they know that they are going to be relocating to live with other family members upon receiving their training, we would then want to aim or take a look at the labor market information in said area to make sure that when they are going back to the area to live with their family, that they're going to have the required education and or training to be able to apply to jobs within that field.
So in a general sense, what is the difference between VR&E and GI Bill?
VR&E is an employment goal focused program and a needs-based program. Our program supports veterans who are in need of additional services, training, or education, and also supportive services to overcome what we identify as vocational impairments. Those are challenges, barriers towards employment, And our program assists veterans with moving forward within their plan and providing those supportive services along the way, all the way up to obtaining employment and maintaining that employment.
So for a veteran that's out there, they qualify for the GI Bill, but they also qualify for VR&E. Is it more advantageous for them to use the GI Bill first or for them to use VR&E first?
It's more advantageous for a veteran to use VR&E first because this does not impact your months of entitlement under GI Bill. Secondly, the personalized attention and the counseling services that you would receive under Chapter 31 is a lot different from what Chapter 33 would offer to veterans pursuing their training programs. You will be meeting with a case manager quite frequently for your supervisory appointments and to identify what additional supports are needed at that current time in order for the veteran to be successful within their program.
Does VR&E provide any type of support? Like if I need help with putting together a resume or interviewing skills or any of that kind of stuff, do they help in that way?
Yes, absolutely. Once veterans are in their Chapter 31 plan of services, we're continuously encouraging our veterans to attend resume development workshops and also working with their career services of the school that they might be attending in order to prepare for employment. While a veteran is in training, we're continuously taking a look at what other types of opportunities are out there for a veteran to build upon their resume. So there might be some additional work experiences or internships that we would encourage our veterans to pursue with their training.
Would it be beneficial or helpful at all for a veteran when they first come in the door and speak with their counselor to have like past resumes or any of that kind of stuff, almost as if they're actually going in for a job?
Yes, that would be extremely helpful. If veterans have resumes to bring into the appointment, that is very helpful for the counselor to be able to take a look at what types of jobs one may have had in the past, what education do they have under their belt at this current time, and how we can build off of this in order to assist the veteran with their career goal.
So with regard to VR&E, are there like some types of programs or forms of support that exist that are really, really unique within the program itself?
When a veteran is in a VR&E plan of services, they are going to be eligible for medical and dental referrals if needed, based upon veterans' current circumstances at that time. There will also be instances where veterans will receive additional support towards employment services once they've completed all of their training for their vocational goal. So once a veteran completes all of their training, we further support the veteran with obtaining employment within their career field and also maintaining employment within that career field.
So what happens to a veteran if they're in the VR&E program and we'll just pick out a certain situation. Say I'm going to school, I have college courses, and I fail one of those courses. Like, then what?
Veterans will then be able to meet with their counselors to determine what are the next steps with assisting that veteran towards being successful within said failed course, or what additional supportive services are needed to assist the veteran with passing that course. So it's unique to the specific individual and what they are encountering at that time and how we can best support them.
So does that mean that in certain situations, I mean, VR&E can even provide like tutoring and that kind of help, or?
Yes, absolutely. If it's in need of a veteran at that current time to receive those additional services, that is something that we could potentially support.
So for somebody that's considering utilizing VR&E, what are 3 tips that you have for them?
My first tip for veterans wanting to consider VR&E is just to be open and honest with your counselor that you initially meet with for your entitlement appointment. Having an open and honest dialogue with your counselor about any barriers and or challenges that you may face with obtaining suitable employment at this time is really going to help your counselor learn more about you and your specific needs at this time. Second of all, I would encourage veterans to come prepared to the initial appointment with a history of your employment, your military work history, and also any education or training that you have under your belt, so that you can explore these with your counselor, and any transferable skills that you can transfer on into a new career field. And third of all, I am also encouraging veterans and letting them know that they're going to be an active participant under their Chapter 31 plan of services. Once a goal is identified and training is determined to be required for said goal, a veteran is then going to meet with a counselor for the remainder of their training, and also up until the point where they are ready to move forward with applying for employment and making sure they're adjusting well to that employment once they find a job.
Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on the SITREP. Tons of valuable information about the VR&E program. There's tons of facts and everything else that she covered. We'll have a bunch of links to a lot of the questions that we've asked her. The answers will be provided down there. But again, Alyssa, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Hey folks, connecting with your benefits is our primary mission, and the SITREP is providing more options than ever.
Subscribe to our free email newsletter, subscribe to our audio podcast channel, or subscribe to our content on YouTube.
For details and links, check out the description below.